Okay, so we've got a really interesting set of notes and articles here all about AI.
Yeah, it looks like someone's been doing their homework.
Well, more like prepping for a deep dive, wouldn't you say? Our source material this time is Joe Rogan Experience podcast.
Oh, with Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO.
That's right. This guy's leading the charge in AI, and he's got some pretty bold ideas about what the future holds. Like, are we on the verge of some kind of utopia powered by AI? Or
Or are we headed for a dystopian nightmare?
exactly. That's the big question. And honestly, it's a little bit unsettling. But in this deep dive, we're going to try to unpack all of this, look at both the potential upsides and the very real concerns.
And what this all means for you.
Right. Absolutely. So buckle up, because this is going to be a wild ride. One of the things that really jumped out at us from this podcast is how Altman sees AI.
Yeah, like it's not some sudden disruption. He views it as part of this much longer arc of human progress, a continuous technological revolution.
So it's not even a question of if AI is going to transform society, but when.
Exactly. He makes this really interesting analogy, comparing tech evolution to a curve. He starts way back with agriculture.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about it. Once humans figured out farming, we had a surplus of food and resources.
Right, which freed people up to invent and build new things.
Exactly. And that leads to the Industrial Revolution, the Information Age, and now.
The age of AI.
Bingo. Each revolution builds on the last, you see. And Altman thinks we're just getting started.
Okay, that's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it like that. But history shows that progress, especially big leaps forward like this,
Often come with downsides.
right. So what are some of the potential pitfalls that Altman sees with AI?
Well, one of the biggest concerns, and Rogan brings this up too, is the impact on jobs.
Oh, yeah, that's the big one, isn't it? It's like the elephant in the room every time we talk about AI.
Right, and initially Altman thought that AI would replace blue-collar jobs first.
Which makes sense.
Then he figured it would move on to cognitive labor and finally hit the creative fields.
But that's not quite how things are playing out, is it?
It's actually the opposite. What we're seeing is AI excelling in creative fields first, like writing, music, even art. Then it's proving super useful for coding and technical stuff. And finally, it's starting to automate those blue-collar jobs.
Wow, that's really surprising. I would have thought driving a truck would be easier for AI to master than, say, composing a symphony.
You think so, right?
Why do you think AI is mastering creativity before it can consistently, drive a truck without incident?
Well, it's complicated, but one explanation might be that creative tasks, even though they're complex, often rely on pattern recognition and manipulation, which AI is great at.
Okay, that makes sense.
While physical tasks like driving require dexterity and real-time adaptability in unpredictable environments. And that's something AI still struggles with.
Interesting. So what does Altman say about all this? Is he freaking out about potential job losses?
He's definitely concerned. But he also thinks that AI will initially enhance a lot of jobs before it maybe replaces them altogether. He sees this transition period where humans and AI collaborate.
Like a partnership.
Exactly. Each playing to their strengths.
Yeah.
AI handles the data crunching, the repetitive tasks, while humans focus on creative problem solving, critical thinking, that kind of thing.
That sounds promising, at least for the short term. But what happens when AI becomes so advanced it can do those higher level tasks too?
Well, that's where Altman's suggestions for mitigating the negative impacts of AI come in. And they get pretty radical. He thinks we might need some form of universal basic income.
UBI. Yeah, I've heard that idea floated around.
Right, as a safety net for people displaced by AI.
I can see how that would appeal to some people, but it's a pretty controversial topic.
It is. There are a lot of arguments about people becoming complacent if they're given money without working. Like, would they lose their motivation?
Yeah, or just become lazy.
Exactly. And Altman actually acknowledges those concerns, even brings up the potential for human nature to exploit such a system.
So what's the solution then? If UBI isn't the answer, what is?
Well, he also really emphasizes the need to give people agency and ownership in this AI-powered future.
Ownership. You mean like owning shares in AI companies?
Well, that's one idea. But he also talks about shared ownership in AI systems themselves, and even giving people voting rights over how those systems are used.
Oh, that's a whole other level. So it's not just about providing a safety net, but about giving people a say in the future.
Exactly. Empowering individuals, ensuring everyone benefits from AI, not just a select few.
It's like democratizing AI.
Right. And that actually leads us to another interesting idea that Rogan brings up, AI government.
AI government.
Yeah. Rogan's pretty skeptical about current systems of government.
I can't say I blame him.
Right. So he proposes this idea of an AI president, a system that would make decisions based purely on data and logic.
Like totally unbiased.
Exactly. Free from all the biases and self-interest that we see in human politicians.
An AI president. Wow. I mean, it's a fascinating concept, but a little bit terrifying too, don't you think?
Definitely.
But it raises a lot of questions, like who would even program this AI president? And wouldn't their own biases end up in the system?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, and both Rogan and Altman admit it's tricky. Even with the best intentions, there's always that risk of unintended consequences.
Goes back to control, doesn't it? Who ultimately controls AI and how do we use it for good?
Exactly. And that leads us to another crucial topic, the path to AGI.
Artificial general intelligence. Now we're getting into the really sci-fi stuff.
Right. And when most people hear AGI, they imagine Skynet from Terminator.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
A superintelligence that suddenly becomes self-aware and decides to wipe out humanity.
That's the Hollywood version. But Altman doesn't see it happening like that. He believes AGI will likely evolve gradually, not in some sudden dramatic shift. He calls it a slow takeoff.
Slow takeoff.
Meaning AI will develop in stages over decades, not years. This gradual development, he argues, is crucial. It gives us time to adapt, to co-design our future alongside AI.
Okay, that's a little less scary than the robot apocalypse scenario.
Yeah.
But still, the idea of a superintelligence emerging, that raises a whole bunch of ethical and philosophical questions.
No doubt about it. And those are exactly the questions we need to be asking now before the technology gets too far ahead of us. It's not just the technical challenges of building AGI, but the ethical implications. Like, what does it even mean to create a machine that could surpass human intelligence?
Whoa, yeah. It feels like we're on the verge of something truly transformative, something that could force us to redefine what it means to be human.
I know, right? And from here, the conversation takes an even more mind-bending turn. Because next, we're going to dive into the world of neural interfaces and the potential for merging with AI.
The merge. Now that's where things get really wild. You ready to go down that rabbit hole?
Let's do it. All right, so this merge with AI. It sounds super sci-fi, but it's getting real.
Yeah, companies like Neuralink are developing brain-computer interfaces. You know, those things that could connect our minds directly to AI.
Imagine that. Our brains linked to machines. It really makes you question what it means to be human.
It's a total game changer. What does Altman see as the potential benefits of this technology?
Well, he believes neural interfaces could completely revolutionize how we communicate, learn, and even experience the world.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
He's talking about downloading information straight into our brains, controlling devices with our thoughts, even sharing thoughts and emotions directly with others.
It's incredible, but also kind of scary, you know?
Definitely a double-edged sword. And Rogan, of course, picks up on the potential downsides right away.
I bet. He's always thinking about the bigger picture.
He's worried about creating a two-tiered society.
Between the enhanced and the unenhanced.
Exactly. Where those who choose to merge with AI have a huge advantage, leading to inequality and maybe even conflict.
It's like that movie Elysium, you know, where the rich elite have access to this advanced technology that keeps them healthy and young, while everyone else is struggling.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And Altman doesn't dismiss this concern, but he's particularly interested in external neural interfaces.
As opposed to?
To implanting chips directly into our brains, external interfaces would be more like devices we wear. They can read our thoughts and inner monologues without surgery.
So basically mind-reading devices. That's both fascinating and creepy at the same time.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But Altman believes even imperfect interfaces, those with limited bandwidth or accuracy, could be powerful tools.
In what way?
Think about instantly translating your thoughts into another language, or sharing your creative visions directly with others.
Whoa, the possibilities are pretty mind-blowing. But I can already hear Rogan's counter-argument.
Oh, absolutely. He sees a slippery slope here.
Where we become so addicted to the digital world that we neglect the real world.
Exactly. He even suggests that technology might be contributing to the feminization of the human species, leading to lower testosterone levels and a decline in aggression and risk-taking.
Hold on, what? Too much screen time is making us less masculine?
Well, that's a simplification of his argument.
Right.
But he does suggest that exposure to plastics and other environmental toxins, combined with our sedentary, tech-driven lifestyles.
Could be changing us on a biological level.
Exactly.
Okay, now that is a wild theory. So what does Altman say about all this? Is he buying into this idea of a feminized future?
He's definitely more cautious. He acknowledges that environmental factors might be at play, but he also emphasizes the importance of human striving and risk-taking. Those traits that got us where we are today.
Right, like our drive to explore, to invent, to push the boundaries.
Exactly. He says we shouldn't discount those traits, even in a world that's increasingly dominated by technology.
It's like the classic nature versus nurture debate. Are we changing because of technology, or is it just evolution?
It's a tough question, and it leads to a bigger theme in this conversation. The tension between our desire for progress and our need to hold on to our humanity.
Right, it's like this constant balancing act. We're drawn to all these possibilities, but we're also wary of the potential consequences. And speaking of consequences, I know Rogan has a lot to say about the dark side of social media.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
He's super vocal about that. He calls social media a double-edged sword.
In what way?
Well, on one hand, it connects people, spreads information really quickly. But on the other hand, it opens up opportunities for bullying. It creates anxiety, fuels this constant pressure to present a perfect image.
I mean, he's not wrong. It's like we've created this incredibly powerful tool for communication, but we haven't figured out how to use it responsibly.
That's the crux of it. And Rogan, drawing on his own experiences, he talks about how addictive social media is, the anxiety it creates.
Oh, I totally relate to that. It's so easy to get sucked into that endless scroll. And then you feel like you're always missing out on something.
Exactly. And Rogan believes all this information overload can be really damaging, especially for young people who are still figuring out who they are.
So what's the solution? Does he have any ideas for how to deal with this social media overload?
Well, this is where things get interesting. He suggests that psychedelics might actually help us address some of these societal problems.
Hold on, psychedelics? That's a bit unexpected.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He's not talking about microdosing for productivity or anything.
Okay, good to know.
He's talking about using psychedelics in a controlled, therapeutic setting, to help people break down ego barriers, promote empathy, gain a deeper understanding of themselves and the world.
That's a pretty bold claim. Does Altman agree with that?
Actually, yeah, Altman doesn't dismiss this idea at all. He even cites studies showing the positive results of using psychedelics to treat mental health issues, like depression and addiction. He also acknowledges the potential for psychedelics to change political landscapes, social interactions, even cultural values.
Okay, so we've gone from AI presidents to psychedelic therapy. This conversation is taking us on a wild ride.
It's a total mind trip.
Yeah.
But in a good way. I mean, this conversation is so wide-ranging, so thought-provoking. It touches on everything from the future of work to the nature of consciousness to the potential for both utopia and dystopia in the age of AI.
I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, but in a good way. It's like we're having a front row seat to one of the most important conversations of our time.
Totally agree. And I think one of the key takeaways from all of this is that we need to be having these conversations now, before it's too late. Before the technology gets too far ahead of us.
Right, we need to be proactive, not reactive. Shape the future of AI, not let it shape us.
Exactly. And that's something I think a lot of people can get behind. We're not just passive observers in this technological revolution. We have a voice, and we need to use it.
Man, we've covered some serious ground in this deep dive. From the inevitability of AI, to merging our minds with machines, to psychedelics changing society. My head's spinning.
I know, right? It's a lot to process. A whirlwind of ideas.
It is. But amidst all the mind-blowing stuff, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the biggest one is informed skepticism. AI has incredible potential.
Right.
But it's not a magical solution to every problem.
So we shouldn't just blindly accept every promise about AI or freak out over every scary headline.
Exactly. We need to be critical thinkers. Ask tough questions.
Yeah, demand transparency from the people developing AI systems.
Right. Be aware of potential biases built into these systems. And the ethical implications, of course. After all, it's our future that's at stake.
That makes sense. So it's not about rejecting technology, but being informed and engaged.
Absolutely. And I think another important takeaway is balance.
Balance.
Yeah, we can't let fear paralyze us, but we also can't be reckless in our pursuit of progress.
It's about finding that middle ground.
Yes, between pushing boundaries and being mindful of consequences.
That sounds like a tough tightrope walk.
It is, and we need to be thinking about these issues now, before it's too late.
Okay, but this all feels pretty overwhelming. How can we, as individuals, make a difference? It's easy to feel powerless in the face of all this.
I get that. But there are things we can do. Start by educating ourselves about AI.
Learn about its capabilities.
Exactly. Understand its potential impact on society.
Okay, makes sense.
We can talk about these issues with friends, family, colleagues, support organizations promoting responsible AI development.
So it's not just on the engineers and coders to figure this out.
Not at all. We all need to become more informed and engaged citizens. We need to move past the hype and the fear and have real conversations about the role we want AI to play.
Yeah, and hold those in power accountable for creating a future that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Absolutely. It's not about surrendering to robots.
It's about shaping the future of AI together.
Right. And I think the fact that we're having these discussions, grappling with these questions, it shows we're on the right track. We're acknowledging the complexity of this new era.
It's like, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Or maybe, in this case, it's the only thing we have to fear is our own ignorance about AI.
Maybe a little healthy fear is good. Keeps us vigilant.
Yeah, it motivates us to act responsibly. But let's not end on a note of fear. Let's leave our listeners with a sense of possibility, hope.
Not like that.
We're living in an extraordinary time. And while there are risks, there are also incredible opportunities. AI could help us solve some of humanity's biggest challenges: climate change, disease, poverty.
It really does feel like we're standing at the edge of a new era, where we can harness the power of AI to create a more just, sustainable, and fulfilling world.
And it's up to all of us to make that happen. It won't be easy.
But it's a challenge worth taking on.
Absolutely. So, to our listeners, keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep pushing boundaries. The future of AI is in our hands.
Let's make it a future worth living in.
And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought.
If AI can help us understand the universe better.
Maybe it can help us understand ourselves better, too.
It's a journey worth taking.
Until next time, keep diving deep.